My custom on the Father's Day program for many years to say a few words about my own father. And it is because of my father, Nathan Shor, Moshe Nuta, Ben Eliezer of blessed memory, that this program actually went on the air to begin with. Well, my dad passed away about 7.5 years ago in December of 2004, and he gave me many things and many experiences, his teachings, and the experience of working with him for many years in the movie theaters. And for this program, most importantly, he gave me the love of Jewish music and culture, which was so important to him. When I was a kid, you know, he had the great big stereo console, and it was like a piece of furniture, and he was always playing records on it for everyone, and it was so important. And, you know, gas was cheap back in the 1960s when I was growing up, and everybody went for a ride on Sunday, and some people, I guess, went to the museums or this or that place, but we used to drive in the direction of Baltimore because A.D. Glitchikov's Yiddische Radio Stunde came on WBMD in Baltimore at 2 o'clock, and my dad loved that program. And later on in the 80s, when videos came out, he would tape everything Jewish, and he enjoyed it so much. He would listen to the most acid rock if it was Jewish. And then in 1980, I got the radio show. And I never would have had the length and breadth of knowledge of Jewish music to be able to do the show without him. And people were always amazed in those days that A, that I was only in my 20s, and B, that I was born in the United States. Almost till the day he died, he would call me, put on channel this or tape that or listen to this. It was all so important to him. But by the time the last decade, the aughts they call it now, it was harder and harder to keep the show going. And then finally, right around the time that my dad died, I had to throw in the towel and take the show off the air. And to be quite honest, I thought that the show died along with my dad. And then about 5 years later, totally out of the blue, the phone rings and it was Chris Roth calling for Bill Parris, and they wanted to put the show back on the air. And because Bill Parris is the gentleman and friend and mensch that he is, he arranged it so that all the pressures and difficulties have been removed. And as excited as I was to put the show back on the air, something totally unexpected and even more wonderful happened when Ben said to me, "Dad, I'd like to do the show with you." And there it was. The legacy would continue. Because I had wondered, how was I going to transfer the love for this that my father gave to me and give it to my own children? Because the era that they are growing up in is so different from mine, and the people who could have helped me to do it are all gone now. We had a lot of loss in our family in a very short period of time. But I was wrong, and I'm glad that I was wrong, because now Ben sits with me every Sunday and Matt sits in, and we do the show together, and I know that the Shor Jewish music legacy goes on L'Dor V'Dor. And I know that somewhere in the other world, my father is smiling, and I believe that he hears the show, and it does his neshama a great deal of nachas. You know, my dad lived his life by a certain code of honor and respect. He never took off the sergeant's stripes that he wore for this country. It was part of who he was, and he taught me that you always had to do what was right, and that no amount of inconvenience or expediency would ever change that. It really made me who I am in such an important way. And he had a great influence on the show as well. We used to talk about the different records I was going to play, and he would suggest things. We would talk to each other in Yiddish, and I miss him so very, very much. But now I'm comforted because Washington Jewish Radio is on the air, a continuing tribute to my dad. The show has changed some. Ben has made the show younger and more relevant, and I bring in the old stuff, and we do it all together. But how fortunate am I, how lucky I am, that what meant so much to my dad continues not only through his son, but now through his grandsons as well. Yehi Zichro Baruch, may his memory always be for a blessing. And one final thought. My dad was always fond of saying with tongue-in-cheek that he had 2 titles during his married life. That first he was Meyer Ehrlich's son-in-law, and then he was Larry Shor's father. But you know what? I got him beat, because I have the greatest title of all. I am Nate Shor's son. Well, here is Paul Zim, and a very nice selection recorded back in 1981, My Yiddische Papa, dedicated to my Yiddische Papa and all the Yiddische Papas out there.